Welcome to another amazing Last Days with Michael Evans. Today is July 20th, Saturday, July 20th, 2024. Well, I'm going to do something a little different today. It's been a while since I've done a walk and talk. So I'm going to do a walk and talk or a sit down and talk. And of all places, I'm going to do it in the graveyard. Most peaceful, quiet place I know of. Kind of pretty out here. So I'll get to my story in a minute. Well, I'm here today to tell a few stories. I wanted to tell a few stories today, true stories, and maybe a bad joke, and some meaningful conversation. So I'll just get started. I was watching Every Man Has a Story with Mark. Can't remember his last name, sorry, Mark. Probably 3-4 hours ago. I was up all night last night, couldn't sleep. I was in pain like you wouldn't believe, and not quite sure what's going on. Some of it I don't know what it is, but terrible pain. I was up till about, well, all night actually, till the sun came up. And so I slept in today, been real groggy headed. I've probably had 3 cups of coffee. Not much going on. But yeah, anyway, been on my mind for a while to share some things, and I've been kind of doing it over a long period of time. And the thing is I didn't really say it strong enough. I didn't make a point clear enough. And I was watching Mark on Every Man Has a Story, and he always says things better than I do. I wish I could talk like him. He's got like 55, I think, more than 55,000 subscribers. Good grief. And, you know, you never see him out riding a scooter or a motorcycle. You never see him out. I haven't. But something about his personality. He's got a really good personality. And you just like to hear him talk. He came here with a little bit of nothing and was on his last leg, kinda, I guess, and was having a hard time, and everything got better for him here. And I think that happens a lot to people. And so anyway, he was telling earlier today, in his video that you need a backup plan. And oddly enough, I've been thinking the same thing to tell people. I've got a backup plan. And it's something that's always on my mind. I grew up out in the country in the Blue Ridge Mountains, or just in the foothills of the Blue Ridge Mountains. And grew up on a farm. And we understood you had to prepare. We understood to have a plan and a backup plan and a plan C for that. And there's a lot of things going on in the world. And so I thought what I'd do is kind of take what Martin reminded me of today and go forward with that a little bit from my point of view. And I actually didn't watch the whole tape that he made, the whole video, because it didn't seem to be along the exact lines of what I had in my mind, but it reminded me. And so I'll just tell you what I've got on my mind. You know, there's a lot of things going on in the world. I'll give you an example. Just a few days ago, somebody missed our president. Actually, he didn't miss. He got him in the ear, of all things, but missed killing him by a fraction of an inch. He turned his head and he just got shot in the ear. And it would have been a brain shot had he have not turned his head. It would have killed him. Sure, it would have. And it very well, everybody said, well, you know, we came within a fraction of an inch of going into a civil war. And I don't know how seriously people take that, but I've been aware of the fact that we could go into a civil war for some time now. And the United States is in a bad place. We're flooded with people from across the border. And people want to say, well, it's a racist thing to not want them. It's not true. It's a survival thing. You know, you take care of your own house first. And if you can, you help your neighbor. I believe that with all my heart. But you don't let your house be overtaken and your family to be done away with so that the strangers can come in and just pick you clean. You don't allow that either. And so what we're doing right now is we're letting so many millions of people in this country, well, in the United States, I'm in the Philippines right now, but in the United States, and it's hurting the economy, it's endangering people. You know, some of them actually do want to better their lives. God bless them. I would be first in line for that. If I was from another place and I couldn't find work and there was no hope, and I heard, you know, if I just make it across that border, I can live a better life. Maybe they'll help me, maybe they won't. But if I hit the ground running, learn a skill, work my way up, eventually become a citizen, I could actually have something and provide for my family and my children and have a life and not just be struggling and doing without. I'd be first in line for that. But that's not what we're getting. We're getting a little bit of that. God bless them. Don't have a problem with that. Still need to try to do it legally and do things the right way. I'm not one to split hairs with law. There's a right and wrong, and then there's there's what's on paper. It's not always the same thing. Sometimes you have to go by what you just know and your heart is right. So, what's terribly wrong is that we just allow people to come flooding across and take what belongs to us and our children and change our culture and our country and make it where there's whole areas in larger cities that if you're not the same race, speak the same foreign language that they do, you better not be in that neighborhood, not unless you're prepared for a fight. Never thought it would be like that in our country. well, it becomes racial. And so what I'm getting at is, let's say the president had not survived, and let's say we did have a civil war. Well, it starts out as a civil war. And then everybody that has a grudge takes advantage of the chaos, and from there, people take revenge. They reach out and rise up against people of other races, and it becomes a race war, and it becomes a civil war, and it becomes many different kinds of war. And it's not like the Civil War of the North against the South. It's neighbor against neighbor, and who can tell who's who? It will be the worst chaos that this country has ever seen, that America has ever seen. And so here I am in the Philippines, and there's this huge, I believe it's a destroyer, it's a Navy vessel from the Chinese Coast Guard. It's off to the northwest of me right now in the ocean, not that far away. And the Chinese are just pushing and pushing against the Philippines. And thank God the United States, who I am convinced we've got a lot of backup when it comes to superior technology. I have no doubt that we've got more than one ace in the hole. We're outnumbered, but we're not outsmarted, not by a long shot. And I've won many a fight by being smarter than the people I fought against. So, what I'm trying to say is, what I heard Mark say was, you need a backup plan. You need an ace in the hole. You need plan B and plan C. Now, here in the Philippines, you have, they don't call them hurricanes, they call them typhoons. I believe it's the same thing. I really think it's about the same thing, only worse. They have floods, they cause landslides. So there's 3 natural disasters. We had a mild tremor earlier, but sometimes they have devastating earthquakes all over this area. There's active volcanoes left and right here. I believe there's 24. There may be more than that, but there's a lot of volcanoes that are active here in the Philippines. And it's part of the Ring of Fire, the Pacific Rim area. Very unstable. What else? Well, there's politics. Now China wants to step in and bully the Philippines, and it's just not that far away from becoming a war. It really could happen. And the least of preparedness that you could have would be a little extra food and a little water. Maybe save your plastic bottles, empty plastic bottles, and refill them, even with dirty water. Something. You'll use it for something, I promise. But it's a really good idea to have a backup plan, a plan B and a plan C. Place to go, place to hide, a way to fight. But you got to know when it's time to fight and when it's not. If you can't win the fight, you go hide for a while. You come back and fight a little at a time. The world is a very unstable place right now for so many reasons. And there's a lot of things I'm not even going to bring up because I could go on, and this would be so depressing. You know, it is dangerous. So I'm going to tell you a story. When I was 29 years old, I used to work for a man named Tommy. I won't say his last name. He's probably passed away. I'm 66. I was 29. He was in his 50s when I was 29. I don't think he's still around, but I won't say his last name. But he owned a business. We built boat docks for a place on Lake Lanier, Georgia, northeast Georgia, up in the hills of northeast Georgia. And it was a very difficult and strange time of my life. Just was going through a horrible divorce. and a dreadful loss in my life. And I was only getting paid like $8 an hour or something. It was just a little bit of nothing. But I got free rent. There was a kind of an apartment there, plenty of place there in the office. And I had a place to shower and to eat, store my food, to sleep. And so I didn't have to pay rent. I got paid a little money. When we got some hours in it, it worked out okay. I thought the world of Tommy. Thought a lot of him. I respected him. And that's not very often I do that. The fact that somebody's my boss doesn't automatically give them my respect. This man, I could care less that he was my boss, that he owned the company. I considered him to be a friend. And I was his friend in return. Tried to be. I've been a soft-spoken person most of my life. And I had worked for Tommy for, I don't know, maybe a year, somewhere around that time. And I seemed to have a built-in something. Don't know what to call it, but I can sense when there's danger. That sounds strange to say that, but it's true. I've had that sense my whole life, and it has literally saved my life several times. And so there's no other way to say it. God's involved with that. It's not me. I don't have any powers or any ability in myself. So somehow God makes me aware when things are dangerous. So one day I went to work there, and it was cloudy, and the clouds were just rolling in all morning. And I was very anxious and pacing the floor and looking out the big back door. We had these enormous warehouse doors that opened with a chain. Great big area of open space there, and you could drive a Mack truck through that shop with the doors open. There's enormous doors, and had all the doors open, and I'm watching the clouds, and I'm trying to work, and I keep looking at the clouds, and sure enough, somewhere around lunchtime, I walked to the back door and looked out, and there was a roof of a building up in the air, twirling around in circles, and stuff from the ground jumping up and twirling up. And I realized there was a tornado in that cloud. It was a big roll of cloud, and the tail had not come down and touched. But it was up in the clouds, and it was sucking things up to it. It took the roof right off of the house. Probably a barn or something. But there was a lot of aluminum, sheets of aluminum and boards and things just flying through the air and burst upwards and swirled around. And I just kind of guesstimated that I may have about a minute before that thing hits the shop. It was headed in my direction. And I very calmly walked to the front office. And Tommy was sitting in his office, as he did most of the time, 350-pound man. And he sat down a lot in his air-conditioned office, talking on the phone. And so he's on the phone, leaning back, all relaxed, and just chatting away. And I opened the door. I didn't knock. I opened it, and I said, Tommy, you might want to get off the phone. There's a tornado headed this way, and I think we may have about a minute to get out of here. I mean, before it hits. And he said, not now, son. He says, I'm talking to Gus, who was a mechanic that worked there also. He was somewhere else that day. He says, I'm talking to Gus on the phone. And so he was being a little authoritative, correcting me for interrupting him. And so what I did was I understood that, and I've always understood, people don't hear you when you speak softly. Doesn't matter how much you mean it. My whole life this has been a problem for me. I tell people don't do that. And they think I'm, because of my politeness and my gentleness, that I'm not able to handle it. and that's as far as it's going to go. But when I whisper something to you, I promise you, I mean it just as much as if I yelled at the top of my lungs. But people don't hear you. They just don't hear that. And so I said, Tommy, get off the blankety blank phone and blank Gus, blankety blank. There's a blankety blank tornado coming. Get off the blankety blank phone now. At the top of my lungs. It was not nearly as nice as I just said it. And got his attention. He stood up and he waddled. He was a big man. Like I said, 350 pounds, probably about my height, maybe an inch taller. And he waddled all the way to the back door. And I saw something I've never seen before or since in my whole life. I saw all of his appendages go in different directions. It was pretty funny, actually. This hand went this way. This hand went that way. This leg went that way, and this leg went that way. It was so funny. And that 350-pound man that couldn't hardly walk to the back door outran me to his truck and was driving away, throwing rocks and gravel, and I dove in the back, and I think he would have left me. I really do. So anyway, we went down. The building was on top of a hill, and you could just see forever in all the directions. And this tornado's coming towards his shop. It actually veered off and never hit his shop, but we didn't know that was going to happen. So we went flying down the hill, and long story short, we got away. It didn't hit the shop, but it very well could have. And if we would have been in it, we had no place to go on top of the hill. It would have killed us. So I'll tell another story now. I was in Seattle, Washington, probably just a few years after that. I'd say 2 years after that. 2.5 years. And I was on my way up to Alaska to work on a fishing boat up there. I've always been adventurous and had great adventures most of my life. And so nothing new. It's just new to me, that part of the world. And Seattle, it may be a liberal area, but something beautiful about it. And it appeals to me, the beauty of the area. And the combination of the greenery and the weather. Even when it's rainy, it's just a beautiful place. It can be a little depressing sometimes, but usually it's a special place to be. Portland, Oregon, Seattle, Washington. There's a lot of really good things there. And so I have to admit, I'm a little country, or at least I was. I'm pretty streetwise at this point, have been for a long time now, but then, not so much. I'd been around already, but not so much in the inner city. Didn't care for the inner city till I got into Seattle. And I was standing on the curbside, and there was a black man behind me, and he reached and got me with both hands, grabbed my clothing, and yanked me backwards. And they really caught me off guard. And I spun around, didn't know what was going on, kind of got into a kung fu stance, ready to fight. And he said, no, man, he says, and about that time, a bus went whizzing by. And in Seattle, they've got these buses that have these enormous mirrors that stick out a good 2.5, 3 feet. And so I was on the very edge of the curb, that far from the street. A half a step forward and I would have been in the street. And it just didn't occur to me. I did not know, I was not aware of that the buses would come flying in like that. And their mirrors, I mean, they've had people die from that. And so the guy explained to me, he says, just a couple of weeks earlier, he had spoken very softly to a fellow and told him. He said, you might want to step back. There's a bus coming. And the guy just didn't pay attention to him. And he said the bus came flying in there, high rate of speed. The mirror hit him in the head, and it said the man rolled down the road. That just knocked him down or the sidewalk, rolled downhill until he just rolled up in a little ball there and laid there. He said he didn't know if the man died or what. He said, but that mirror hit him really hard, and he didn't see how he could have survived. And he didn't want to know. He just walked away. He tried to help him. He told him in time, and he just stood there and ignored him, and that mirror hit him. And so he didn't want to repeat that same mistake. And I'm watching this guy over here. He's staring at me. He thinks I'm talking to myself. This is funny. When you're doing YouTube, you get a lot of that. It's kind of funny. A little embarrassing at first, but you get used to it. So anyway, so I didn't want to make the same mistake twice. And he grabbed me and pulled me out of the way. And then, a few seconds later, the mirror come by real quick. So he didn't want to take the chance that if he told me without yelling and screaming at me, he didn't know how to react either way. If he didn't yell or if he did yell, that it would accomplish what needed to be accomplished. So he just grabbed me and pulled me out of the way. I'll tell one more story. Go back to Tommy Hughes again. Tommy, I said his last name, great. So we were going out to do a repair on a dock one day, and we had a lot of weight. We had a welding machine up on the front of the boat. I had built that boat for him, by the way. It's a 32-foot flat bottom boat. And actually, no, it was the pontoon boat that we had before I built that boat for him. So the pontoons just didn't have enough room for water displacement to flow anything with serious weight to it. And we had the welding machine too far forward. It was a pontoon boat. So when Tommy picked up speed, the water rose up over the front of the pontoons, and the pontoons started doing a nosedive. And Tommy was just not paying attention. And so I'm standing there watching, and I said, well, Tommy, you might want to ease off the gas a little bit because we're about to be a submarine. And he just didn't pay attention. As usual, people don't hear you. And when his sneakers started getting soaking wet, he looked down, he realized we were about to do a nosedive in the water, and he let off the gas. And we had a good laugh about it. So the moral of this story is people don't hear you. If you're nice and if you're gentle and soft-spoken, people don't hear that. So I'm going to tell you nicely, and I'm going to say it softly. You need to prepare for some things right now. I told all three of those stories to make a point. I'm still going to say it softly. And you know what? Most people aren't going to hear me. I've got this experience throughout my whole life. People push me too far on some things, and I'll tell them nicely, you might not want to do that again. And they just don't hear you. You have to show them. You have to grab them. You have to yell at them. Or just go ahead and take care of business. Because people don't hear you. They don't pay attention. So here's what I've got to say softly and gently and politely. The world is in a dreadful position right now. And I'm not trying to make anybody depressed. Be happy by all means. Live and enjoy every single day. I do. I'm 66 years old, couldn't be happier. I see people that are, they don't like to be called senior citizens or old. Man, I earned it. I'm glad to be here. It's been hard. I've taken a lot of losses in my life. I still want to be alive. I'm still happy to be alive. I may not laugh and smile like I used to, but on the inside, I'm happy to be alive. God gave me life, and I'm very appreciative of it. But you can be foolish and not prepare, and you can lose your life. So I'm trying to say it would be wise if you were to have extra water and extra food. Doesn't have to be expensive. I promise you. The nastiest thing you can think of, for example, I hate green peas. I've always hated green peas. I hate them to this day. But I remember when I was about 25 years old, I got myself in another pickle. I've been in plenty of them. And I was too proud to go get food stamps. And I had a little period of time there. I was just kind of in a house, didn't have electricity, in an area that there was no work. I had lost my vehicle. At first it tore up, and then they repoed the trash that was left. It was a ruined truck. And so bottom line is I didn't have transportation to even go get it or to recover. So of all things, I went to this church that I used to go to, and I took all the pennies that I had, every dime, nickel, and penny that I had, probably amounted to $3 or $4 in pennies, maybe another $1.50 in quarters, nickels, dimes, and I took and put it in the envelope. So every penny I had that I could scrape together, and I put it in the mailbox of the church that I used to go to. And I said, there's my tithes. Oddly enough, immediately thereafter, I inherited $3,000 from a man I'd never met in my life. That's a longer story than you want to hear, so I'll just leave it at that. But the family that had raised me was related to this man. He got my name from somebody in the family, and he included me in his will. So I inherited that $3,000, and I got another almost a couple thousand from income tax that year, and I was just waiting for that money to come in. So I had to stay where I was, or the money would have never chased me down, I promise. So I had nothing to eat for a very long period of time. I had clean water to drink, and I found a little packet of baby food, dried baby food, and a can of green peas. I had not eaten it probably in 2 weeks, just water every day. I don't know, some crackers or something. And so I popped the top on that can of green peas. And I'm going to tell you something. They were delicious. They were absolutely the best thing I've ever eaten. So the trick to delicious green peas is being extremely hungry. So stock up on green peas and corn or things, whatever you don't like, whatever nobody wants and they throw it away. They, go to the food bank or the grocery store, whatever, get the cheapest, crappiest junk you can get your hands on, but stock up on something that's going to fill your belly. And I'll show you later in the video, what we've done. We've stocked up on enough rice to last for months. And I always have this survivalist thing in the back of my mind. I try not to be too weird about it, but it's there in case I need it. And I was a decent Boy Scout, so I suggest you do the same. So water, number one important thing. Actually, that's not true. God's the most important thing you'll have in your life, always. But besides that, you can live and not have a place to stay. I promise you can sleep in the grass. You can sleep in a snake-infested jungle, and the odds are you'll survive. Can't live without water. You make it about 5 days, 4 to 5 days, you'll become delirious and you will die without water. You'll last as much as 4, maybe even 5 weeks without food. If you're drinking water, you can live without food. But that's the very end of it. 5 days, 4 or 5 days is the end stage of that, is where you die. About 30 days, 35 days is when you die from lack of food. Now, you can live very well for weeks, and it feels good. I've done it a couple times. Where you go 2 or 3 weeks without eating, it doesn't bother you after a while. And it actually will hurt when you fill your belly after you haven't had food, and you have to get yourself used to eating again. And it's troublesome to get your weight back up even. So that's what I wanted to say. You know, there's so many things going on in the earth. And like I said, if I named everything, surely to God you've been listening to the news. But if I named everything, you'd be depressed. And I don't want you to be depressed. I want you to be happy. Even if you have to go through something. If you look in history, we've been through depressions and recessions. We've been through wars. We've been through famines and disease and pestilence, which may be the same thing. I'll have to look it up. We've been through natural disasters and all sorts of calamities. So I think we're watching a little too much TV to think that it won't happen again, or that we're just going to automatically come out on the winning side of things without being prepared for them. And some people act like something's wrong with you if you get prepared for these things. You don't have to go to sleep worrying about it every night. But when you go to the grocery store, if you've got an extra $5, then get 5 extra gallons of water. If you've got a couple of thousand extra pesos here in the Philippines, do like I do and buy extra jugs of water, drinking water. There's no expiration date on it. And even if it's not the best water in the world, it'll keep you alive. If it's been 2 or 3 years sitting in the closet, I wouldn't worry about it a whole lot. It's going to drink really good when you're needing it really bad. So we actually have a couple of 100 pounds of rice. Sounds like an awful lot. It's not that much. It's a few buckets full. And that could last us probably, we might have 2 months worth. And then I've got some dried food, and I've got this and that, and of course there's vegetables. And I'm also aware of food that grows around me. There's been plenty of people died sitting in a field full of food, and they just didn't know what was edible. The rule of thumb is if it's bitter, don't eat it. That's not always the case, but it's a good rule of thumb to use. If it doesn't taste good, don't eat it. If it tastes good, it's probably okay. Sometimes that's all you got because you don't know any more than that. And that's easy to remember. Here they've got kudzu that grows everywhere. This is Southeast Asia. There are nuts and vines and leaves that are edible. There's fruit trees everywhere here. And even the leaf of a banana tree is somewhat edible. The kudzu leaf is, you can boil it. And if you've got a little vinegar and salt, throw it on there. Kill a pigeon or two and throw that in, and you've got a good meal. That and a bowl of rice, man, you got a full belly all day. Water is number one. Clean drinking water is the most important thing you're going to have on your list of things that you have to have for survival. And so there's plenty of purification tools. Can be a little dangerous. I prefer to use a straw, a survival straw that purifies. And after you screen everything, you still boil it, you still steam it off, let it turn back to water. The steam hits and turns back into water droplets. You catch that, accumulate that, and it's drinkable. You need to add a little bit of salt. Electrolytes your body needs also, and that's how you get it, is a lot of the minerals and salt and so forth you get from drinking water, well water, groundwater. So be sure to include like electrolytes if you can. And I'm not saying be political, and your belief, whether or not you turn to God, boy, wouldn't that be a wise thing? I don't know about you, but I can't create a universe. I can't speak and the sun pops in the air. So if God asks us nicely to worship him, this is very strange, but it's what I've learned. He doesn't make us do that. It's for us, it's not for him. We get something from that. And it keeps our head in the place that it should be. It keeps our mind right. It keeps our attitude adjusted when we realize just how magnificent God is and how much more he is than us. It's not a bad thing. I wrestled with it for a long time, most of my life actually. He is worthy. Hello, monkey. Table I made. Barbecue. My wife with the towel on her head. And my happy little third world home. Well, here I am back in my bedroom, in my apartment. I just wanted to throw this in. I wear these hats all the time, and I guess everybody doesn't know what that is. I remember I was in the airport. I mean, I'll wear them everywhere but the shower. That's about the only place I don't wear this thing. And I've worn them since I was 19 years old. I'm a welder. It's a welding hat. But I was in the airport, and I had on a colorful one of these, and you couldn't see that it had the bill on the back. And this guy, little gung-ho muscle dude, TSA in the airport, come charging at me with a very angry look on his face. And the only thing I could, he finally kind of like did a double take and then went somewhere else. He didn't tackle me, but he was headed towards me with hatred in his eyes. And so I think he saw my hat and thought I was a Muslim. I looked like the imam, or whatever you call them, the religious leaders. And especially when I wear the white one. And so anyway, I'm not a Muslim, I'm a Christian. 100% Christian. Trying to be a good one. Working on it. And so, just in case you were wondering, the hat's a welding hat. Okay, now that I've cooled down, back in the apartment, a couple more things I want to talk about. The last two videos I did were about living expenses here in the Philippines. And, you know, I just got through mentioning I'm trying to be a Christian. I'm trying to be a good Christian, a real Christian. I don't know if you know what I'm talking about, but I've been places I've seen people, they live a not bad life, but they're missing something. When it comes to Christianity, there's more depth. There's more to being a Christian than just hanging out in church, you know. Opening the hymn book and singing a song with everybody and hanging out with people. There's a lot more to it. And when you're a Christian, you'll be persecuted. You will be disliked for your opinion. I noticed that when I have Christian content, when I mention God in my videos, I notice I lose subscribers. Not a whole lot, but my numbers will go down a little bit. And it actually hurts my feelings a little bit. Well, I'm a little too sensitive to be so worldly and well-traveled, and I guess a little jaded, streetwise. I'm soft-hearted, so it bothers me, and so I just have to get past that. Something else that has happened recently that kind of bothers me. You'll notice I turned my I don't know what it's called, the response, so people can make comments. I turned the comments off on the last two videos that I made about the living expenses because I actually was called a liar. Cannot imagine why someone would call me a liar. I've got nothing better to do. Now, let's see, I'm retired. Somebody doesn't believe that? Look at me. I'm 66 years old. Let me see what else. My Social Security is $1,358 a month. I don't have a bit of problem with people knowing that. I don't know why anybody would. Some people, it's top secret. I'm not rich, but you know what? I live pretty good on that. And here in the Philippines, I can live all month and have money left over. I can live on, what I said on the last video was $800 to $1,028 a month. The truth is, I can live on less than that. Me and my wife, we can live on $600 a month. But I'm not trying to push that because that is a little extreme. I'm able to do it. A lot of people don't have the whatever it takes, tenacity, I suppose. Some people don't have that. I'm able to live on vegetables and rice and gravy and just good, healthy something to eat and drink, and I'm fine. A lot of people have to go eat out at the fancy restaurant. They have to fly first class to someplace here and there. I don't. I can ride a scooter 20 miles down the road, 45 minutes down the road to the volcano, and I'm amused. It's a place I haven't been. I'm exploring. I'm experiencing life. I'm good with that. And so, I'm a little different, I guess. I can pop the top on a can of this and 3 vegetables and a scoop of rice with some gravy on it, and man, I'm happy. So I actually had people start calling me a liar that I could live well on $1,028 a month. Actually, that's high. I can live on less than that and be perfectly happy with it. Now, am I living 5-star? Not even. I mean, look at this tape when you rewind it and look at me coming in my front door. It's not the nicest place. We're working on it. We're fixing it up slowly but surely. I built cabinets and built this and built that, and I've got all kinds of things in the works and shelves and storage places. I'm going to get carpet. Before it's over with, probably half a year from now, it's going to be a really nice looking place. But it's most definitely, at the moment, it's definitely third world apartment. We have running water. Oh, you can't drink it. You can brush your teeth with it. You can go that far. You can wash your clothes. You can take a shower. But we have to buy the drinking water. If you're going to cook with it or make coffee with it, it's a good idea to use water that we bought, clean water. So it is what it is. I'm fine with it. And the truth is, I really can live on, if I don't go a lot of places and just do a whole lot of things and spend on left and right, I can live on $600 a month here. I can do it. And there's people, they'll say, well, I don't believe that. Well, they're calling you a liar when they say that. I see other people on here, on YouTube, and they say, well, I live on $700 a month, or I live on $800. One guy said he lived on less than $400. You know what? I believe him. That guy, I don't think he I don't think he pays rent. But if you pay the amount of rent that I do, it's 3,000. It's 3,400 pesos. 3,400 pesos. That's like, I believe it was $55 last time I checked. $55 a month. That's cheap rent. And so with that, you've got groceries left. And if you're okay with just walking and taking an occasional taxi somewhere, and you don't get out and buy a lot of stuff, which are not your living expenses, by the way. You know, food, water, electricity, and rent. And, you know, you got laundry and stuff, but I can do all that and live just fine for actually a little less than $600 a month. Live perfectly fine. So, you know, if you'll notice, I cut the comments off. I don't want to hear it. It really kind of makes me mad. I don't like being called a liar. Don't like it. So you may notice that that's cut off for a while until I work on my temperament a little bit. That does not sit well with me. So anyway, I'm going to get up and I'm going to show you around a little bit. I'm going to show you what we did. My wife and I, we stored some food. I'll show you my cabinet that I built up here. That's what this video is about. We stored some water. We didn't overdo it. We will. We'll store more over time. I'll show you the cabinet that I just built with my beautiful wife. Now, I bought her some containers. Let's see if you can see that. Yeah, with screw-on lids. I brought buckets over. That cost me a fortune. It's like an extra $200, not a fortune, but $200 I didn't want to spend for a bucket and a lid outside of my luggage. And then I bought probably, I don't know, 4 other buckets with lids. But they're food grade buckets, and the lids are screw on, and you can fill them full of food. And what we put, I'll show you again. We store rice in those buckets. And so we've got water. There's a water container, typical water container. And you'll see the cupboard is not bare. We've got plenty of food and things that we may need. This is how we cook. I just got my wife this little burner, double burner. And pretty nice. She's a really good cook. She fixes me vegetables, and she's good looking. That doesn't hurt my feelings either. And here's her refrigerator. You know, it's got local eggs. It's got milk like they have it here in the Philippines. Bread, vegetables galore. Let me pull this out. I don't even know what's in here. Okay, look at all that. There's vegetables. Now, in the United States, you go to even Walmart. If you'll go to the grocery store, there's H-E-B and Walmart where I come from. And I'm sure there's other stores. It's the only ones I remember seeing. And if you'll look, if you want to eat healthy, it costs you more. If you want to eat Chef Boyardee and give yourself an early heart attack, I ate unhealthy half my life. I was a health freak for a good portion of my life, and then I wasn't. And at this point, I'm eating probably more healthy than I have since I was a teenager, since I was living on the farm when I was a kid, actually. And that's all we eat. Vegetables, a little bit of meat, rice and gravy, and I'll have an occasional sandwich, turkey sandwich or something like that. I actually found where they sell that here. But mostly, you almost have to eat healthy here. Mostly what they have is fish and other meats and a lot of vegetables and rice. So Vegetables here, man, it doesn't cost hardly anything. It's so inexpensive. There's so much of it, and so it's the opposite here. If you want to eat the canned goods that are not good for you, the processed food, it's going to cost you a fortune, and most people are used to that. And then if you want to eat what's really healthy, the vegetables and the local unprocessed stuff, absolutely fresh meat, still twitching when they're chopping it up. They've got the wet market. I don't particularly care for their fish here, but the chicken and you'll see beef sometimes, but chicken mostly, and vegetables and rice and gravy. It's very healthy. It costs nothing. And so on my last video, when I said I was paying $60 to $100 a week, I threw a high number out there. I'm not paying that much. So the truth is, I didn't lie. I didn't split hairs with the math. And I threw a high number out there because I knew what it was going to sound like to a lot of people. And I really don't like being called a liar. Our grocery bill's a lot less than $100. And it could be $100 if we ate out really big, ordered pizzas and have them delivered all the time. It could probably be that high, but it's not. But I threw that out there to make it more so you could grasp, and accept the number, I guess. It's a lot less than that. And quite frankly, I prefer to eat the vegetables. And I'll drink tea. And I like their milk. It took me a minute to get used to the way they have their milk. It's not the same as America at all. But I've gotten used to it, and I like it. And so the little cartons of milk, what they do is they dry it. They don't just condense it. They make powdered milk out of it. Then they add pure water with it and remake milk out of it. And apparently, for some reason, it doesn't spoil like that. So they can just leave it in the little cartons, unrefrigerated. And they try to make things mostly here in this country where it can last unrefrigerated. And so I've developed a taste for the milk here. And tea, don't care for just plain water, but I'll drink a lot of ice water. And very, very, very inexpensive to live here. And I guess what I consider living well is not what everybody does. Some people think that you have to be driving a Mercedes, which I've had my share of nice things. But I don't require that to consider that I'm living well. And so what I have is good enough. I've got a good roof over my head. I've got a decent place to stay. We've got modern stuff in here. I went and bought nice, I don't know what size TV that is, but it's brand new. And she had a small little ancient TV. And we've got cable. We've got Wi-Fi for the phones and for the television, for the other television, this one. And we've got a washing machine. We've got nice air conditioner hidden up under here, under the cabinet. And we've got everything everybody has. We don't have a big hot water tank. I heat my water on the stove, and then I use a bucket and a dipper. Is how I shower. That's how most people do here in this country. And I kind of like experiencing life here like it is here. If I didn't, I wouldn't have come here. So, it's all how you look at it. Some people come here and they want to live in a 5-star place, and there's nothing wrong with that. There's also nothing wrong with the way I'm doing it either. I like to experience different places of the world. I've been to the Middle East. I've been to Europe. Now I've been to Asia. I've literally been around the world now. And I live it like they do where I'm at. When in Rome, do as the Romans do. I certainly do that. So, uh, yeah, $1,028 a month is way high. On an average month, a little over 600, not a problem at all. 800, extremely common, and that's going out and doing things. That's getting around a bit. And so I'm going to leave that comment turned off for a while. I like comments from people, but I just don't like being called a liar. And if you'll look at it, you'll see I'm telling the truth about it. Got no reason not to. And not only can I do it, you can do it too. If I can, you can. I'm just an old retired welder, old shipyard guy, and I guess I've got a little bit of survivalist in me, and I enjoy camping and traveling and doing different things. And so I've got a few skills. And if you've got any common sense about you at all, and any skills at all, you can also live on a lot less money here, a lot better than you can in the United States. I love my country. I love the United States. I absolutely do. But I refuse to just sit around three weeks out of the month. And, well, there's a lot more to the story, but I just won't tell the whole story. But, like I said before, the check that I get, $1,358, if I'm living by myself, my rent's going to be about $1,000. Electricity's going to be about another 100 or so. And then that leaves enough money for food. That doesn't leave money for insurance on a vehicle, or for maintenance, or for doctor, or for anything else. And here, I actually I've got money for everything, and I've got money left over. I can afford everything that I need, do everything that I want to do. I'm just fine all month, and I've got money left over. So, it lasts me a week, and then I have to just sit tight. And the last week of that month is really rough in the United States. I come here, I don't experience that. I've got plenty of money in my pocket all month long. I want something, I order it, or I go get it. And I'm always building things. I go into the hardware store. She orders things all the time, constantly. And things are less expensive here, too. So it makes a big difference. So not only is it a good idea for people to do that, but like I said, it's also a good idea to be prepared, as the Boy Scouts say. Mark said, have a backup plan. Our Boy Scouts say, be prepared. And so I say, have a plan B and a plan C. And it's just not a bad idea at all, especially the way things are going in the world. So, and here in the Philippines, if you live here, there are so many natural disasters. The political situations can change overnight. And there's so many reasons. Then there's one thing we didn't talk about is economic collapse. It is a possibility. I'm not saying be afraid of it. Just have some water in the cabinet and a few jugs of water stored up, and we've got probably 200 pounds of rice. I don't remember how many kilos that is, but we bought 2 bags of 50 kilo bags of rice. So that's like 220 pounds. And we'll probably get another 50 kilos. And that's enough. You should be able to get out and hunt and gather if you get in a jam. You don't have to overdo it. You don't have to have a year's worth or 2 years worth and have a survival shelter. Just be realistic and realize that you can have a big bump in the road and be prepared for that. Try to, a month or two is not a bad idea. Have water and food for a month or two, a little money ahead, and I don't have a gun. I've got a slingshot. I've got a bow and arrow that I made. I've got knives and sharpening tools and all kinds of little non-electrical woodworking tools and that sort of thing. So, yeah, be prepared. And I guess that's it for today. That's about all I had to say about everything. And you can live on, like I said in my video before, the last two videos, 1,028, you live perfectly fine. And the truth be told, if you're already set up, you've got your television, you've got your scooter, you've got all your stuff paid for, no, you can live on $600 a month. My rent being what it is, I can easily live on $600 a month, me and my wife both. And you want to live pretty darn good, $800. You want to live really good, $1,000, and save $350, something like that, every month. So it can be done. I'm doing it. So help me God, I'm telling the truth. Until next time, this is Amazing Last Days with Michael Evans.